He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Today is Wednesday, July 8, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Virginia Democrats had huge success in 2025. They were led by the first Black Speaker of the House, Don Scott. I'll show you what he had to say in terms of what his strategy is moving forward for the Commonwealth. Donald Trump's DOJ sent a warning to state officials in all 50 states and the District of Columbia that they could face criminal prosecution over non-citizen voting, and will send election monitors to 15 states, jurisdictions in 6 states for this November election. We'll examine a new comprehensive multiracial study of the disaffected electorate that shows they are reachable. We'll talk to one of the lead researchers about that. Civil rights attorney Harry Daniels is here to talk about 2 cases: a Black North Carolina woman suing a Gaston County Police Department officer and an advanced auto parts employee for a wrongful arrest. It left her jobless and homeless. Plus, a Black Delaware family wants the body cam video released of the police shooting of 19-year-old Kadir Skinner, who was shot in the back. The stepmother of one of the white teens who was with Nolan Wells before he disappeared explains why she deactivated her social media account. Plus, a twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald the Con Trump is promoting what he's calling the Freedom Fuel Network, which claims to have the lowest gas prices. But is there a financial connection to the grifter occupying the Oval Office? Plus, more right here as we talk about this attack on Black America. Lots to break down. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
Whatever the piss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the fine. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. Yeah, it's on go, y'all. Yeah, it's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Could Virginia, the success in Virginia, where Democrats control the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion, could that be a roadmap for Democrats across the country? But also the investments made in reaching Black voters. I talked to the Speaker of the House, Don Scott. We were at the Virginia Democrats Commonwealth Gala about that and other issues. Here's our conversation.
I'm just saying.
I know you're waiting in the wings, but I'm doing my thing.
You need a pocket square. I'm just saying.
No, don't do that.
You need some flavor. I can tell. You need some flavor. Folks, Virginia Speaker of the House, Don Scott, went to this little inferior high school, Sterling High School.
Oh, my God.
And come on now, you know.
I'm not getting to this Yates Sterling. We're not going to do this fratricide today.
No,
because we
don't love y'all.
We both from
we used to beat y'all down.
No. Stop. We're not going to do that.
You don't want to.
We're not going to do that right now. Let's not do that right now.
I'm going to ask one simple question.
Don't know this.
I'm going to answer one simple question. Has your school ever celebrated a state championship in football?
Not that I recall.
No. not in the PVIL.
But who's y'all's biggest athlete to come out of Yates?
Oh.
I said the one. Name the biggest one.
Oh, my goodness. Dexter Manley.
Okay, he has nothing on Clyde Drexler. Can we move on? Let's drop the mic. Okay, you have nothing to say.
Did y'all win a state title when Clyde was there?
He was.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay,
So y'all didn't win nothing.
But biggest
y'all didn't win nothing
out of H-Town.
I mean, we got so many state titles. Just pick it: women's basketball, men's basketball, football.
Y'all stacked the deck. Y'all was in the third ward. All the talent was in the third ward. You know about that.
And then of course we
third ward. You already know.
Then we got Debbie Allen, Felicia Rashad.
Oh my God.
You know, Roland Martin. I mean, come on.
Oh my God, okay. You belong there. You do.
Of course I do.
You do. I got to give you props. You know I'm not gonna hate on you. Who celebrates Roland Martin more than me? Don't get started. Somebody call and say something about Roland Martin, I'm gonna curse them out.
Let's talk about what's happening. You now have the trifecta. You do not have that many. Republicans have more places in the country where they control House, Senate, and governor's mansion. Explain to folk who don't understand what that means, having the ability to control your political destiny.
We get to control the agenda. We get to set the agenda on what is going to be heard, what's going to be done. We're going to make sure in Virginia, just look at Virginia alone, in a southern state, the first thing that we did when we got the trifecta is that we made sure that we enshrine a woman's right to take care of her own body, have bodily autonomy, take care of her own medical issues, kept politicians out of the doctor's office. Second thing that we did was we restored rights. Virginia had a long Jim Crow history of felony disenfranchisement. We did that. That'll all go on the ballot. And then we're going
to ballot in November.
It go on the ballot this November. That's why this November is so important. And we have to re-elect Mark Warner, and then we have to elect the new Congress folks. We'll re-elect Bobby Scott and Jennifer McClellan. But when you set when you have the trifecta, we get to set the agenda. And what we did this year, we gave teachers a 4% pay raise. We gave state employees a 3.5% pay raise. We put unprecedented dollars in health care to make up for the big BS bill that they did that we had to restore so people can be able to buy health insurance, to make sure that we kept hungry children children this summer from going hungry, by making sure we put money in the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program and the SNAP program. We have done everything that the community and the Commonwealth of Virginia asked us to do to offset what Donald Trump and the MAGA folks up in D.C. have done. And the kind of harm that they've caused here in Virginia has been palpable, but we have been resilient. Our budget is strong, and that is because Democrats are here, and Democrats also, we can walk and chew gum. We can take care of workers every day, and we can make sure that we grow the business community and be true to the values to be able to give people the opportunity to have employment.
But how do you also explain to people who really who don't understand, as always, how the sausage is made, who don't understand public policy? Because a lot of folk complain. A lot of people say they want stuff to be done, but they really have to understand that process. And I keep saying it, we got to have especially in our community, we got to have massive citizenship education training where people understand what a city council does, a school board does, county commissioner does, state, and what congressional folks do.
And folks ought to understand, democracy is not a destination. You have to do it every single day. You don't get to say, oh, we won an election, it's over. There's another election, and in Virginia we have one every single year. So there is always something going on. You have to stay engaged. You can't be despair. I've heard people say, well, that didn't go my way, and so now what do we do next? What do you do next is you get back up and fight. And we're from a community down in Texas where we know, we just celebrated Juneteenth. We have a legacy that we've inherited that we have to continue to fight. We don't get the chance to go into despair and start feeling sorry for ourselves. We have to continue to fight each and every day, because we're not only doing it for us, we blessing our ancestors, and we're also making sure that we take care of our progeny, our children that are going to come beyond us. And so we have to continue to fight. The policy issue, there are people that I know who had been in the minority for 20 years straight in the House of Delegates, 20 years straight. And they had been pushing the same ideas, the same agenda for a long time. And finally, when we got the majority, we were able to do some of those great policies, do criminal justice reform, make sure we take care of our kids, invest in public education. We invested billions, not millions, billions in public education over the last 2 years that we've had the majority. And so I feel like folks need to understand this makes a difference in everybody's life. Right. We need to make sure that we continue. So
a couple of days ago, I interviewed Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic leader, and I talked about, and I said to him point blank, I said that black voters have changed, that you can't use the old model of how you go out and get black folks to vote. I said you're going to have to spend 3 to 4 times as much time, 3 to 4 times as much money, reach out to them, because it's just a different perspective when it comes to voters. And in his response, he talked about what y'all did here in Virginia to understand how you got control. And that, to me, is what should be happening nationally. Are Democrats in other states? They're trying to hold the Senate seat in Georgia. They're trying to capture the Senate seat in North Carolina. Obviously, Texas with Tallarico, Florida. Then you have Sherrod Brown in Ohio. You have Iowa, Alaska, and then of course trying to win the House. Are they reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, Speaker Scott, show us what you did and explain to us how you did it"?
You know, sadly, those leaders are not, but the Democratic activists around the country are. The people that want to win and are trying to get engaged, they have reached out to me.
So the leadership is not sitting here going...
The only leader who has spoken to me consistently is Hakeem Jeffries, to his credit. We have talked several times about what we needed to do, and I've seen him implement some of the things that I've talked about. You got to remember, when I came in, I was the minority leader in 2022. My job was to win 23 in a tough environment where Joe Biden was at 38% in Virginia in approval ratings. We had a very popular governor here, a Republican governor, who was doing everything in his power to keep us in the minority. We won back the majority with a 2-vote majority, 51-49 in the House. That was 100 seats. And then we took that 2023 victory, and then in 2025, with engaging African-American voters in a real sustained, not just waiting until election week, but early on, going into communities over a period of time, engaging Latino voters, engaging Asian-American voters, engaging all voters, because people need to understand black voters want the same thing every voter wants. They want safe schools. They want a resilient economy. They want public safety. They want the same thing. People keep saying, well, what do black voters want? They want a job. They want to work. They want to believe that they have, if they do the work.
They want a business. They want access to capital.
They have aspirations. They want to be able to start a business. They want to be able to have access to capital. They want to be able to make sure that the playing field is fair. They like James Brown. They don't want nobody to give them nothing. Just open up the door. They get it themselves. And so I think we need to continue to understand that black voters have the same aspirations as every other voter. And I think what's happened is we started speaking just down the voters sometimes. And I think we need to go back to communicating. And we spent a lot of energy. And we were able to take that 51-49 majority in 2023 and turn it into a 64-36 majority in just 2 years to where we are right now. And that's the largest majority, Democratic majority, in 5 decades in Virginia. So we know what to do with it. We continue to do this work and continue to build on it and then deliver once we get the majority. You can't get the majority and celebrate.
Right.
You have to get the majority, deliver, and then communicate what you deliver.
See, that's, to me, I would think that these progressive billionaires and others out there who are spending money will be sitting here saying, Speaker Scott, come on here and explain us the game plan. And listen, I've been highly critical, and I ain't got no problem keep doing it. I still fundamentally believe that the biggest problem with the National Democratic Party is you largely have white male Democratic strategists who are not listening to black people, who are not engaging black posters, black consultants, and talking to people on the ground to understand how you win. You cannot win solely by appealing to white folks in the suburbs. And you can't appeal thinking, oh yeah, we got them, we got them. That's how Democrats in Texas lost Latino. In the last election, 1 million African Americans, 1.1 million African Americans did not vote. And Trump doubled his support among black men in Texas from 15% to 30%. Ashley Etienne dropped a new piece the other day. And so my deal is, if you want to win, you had better learn how to engage this new black voter, because the black voter in 2026 is not the same even when Obama ran in 2008.
Totally different. Totally different. And folks have to understand that. And, you know, there is something about, that's why Mandami took everybody by surprise, because we live in these echo chambers. People got to get outside and go touch grass, go be outside more, because
Joe Madison, God rest his soul, always said, you got to put it where the goats can get it.
Yeah. And that's what folks are doing. And that's why we were able to grow here. And to Governor Abigail Spanberger's credit, that's why she did so well. She stayed focused and talking to folks, and she did a lot of outreach in all of those marginalized communities that folks had thought they had been left behind. And not only did she do it, then she delivered. You know, she delivered on things that they cared about. No, I know people talk about we legalize adult use cannabis, but that's not the only thing the black community cared about. That's one small piece.
Right.
People care way more about public school education, making sure the teachers got the pay that they leave so we would stop the brain drain here. So those are the things that we have delivered on, making sure that kids who were disadvantaged had an opportunity to learn and not be hungry. So those are the things that we focused on, making sure that we had access to health care and good health care, making sure that women got the health care that they needed, making sure that she started a men's, I ain't gonna say boys to men and boys commission, making sure that we understand what's happening that's keeping men from achieving, understanding the gender gap between attainment of higher education. These are all of the things that we're focused on. We're not just talking about it, we're being about it, and I think if we continue to do that, we're going to do well.
You mentioned Zohran Mamdani, and this whole week, you've had this massive freak out, I really think, because the New York is the media capital of the world.
Anything that happens that way.
I do not believe that, oh my God, the Democratic Party has been taken over by Democratic Socialists. What I have said is, what the folks did was they presented an agenda, they spoke to the people, and they mobilized and organized. And if you are the so-called Democrat establishment and you are mad about what happened, that means that you were lazy, you weren't paying attention, you wasn't out there building your coalitions, and frankly, like in boxing, what do they say? You know, always protect yourself at all times.
Yeah.
What happened was they got caught slipping.
Yeah.
That's just what I think happened.
Yeah.
And so to now be mad, well, you didn't do what you're supposed to do.
Well, what it should be is an opportunity for them to be motivated to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. And they could learn some things. Learn how they communicate, learn how they message, but not only that, learn how they mobilize and organize and get people excited. And I think that's very important.
Because you had some people here who said, Don, what you doing?
Yeah, what you doing bringing in Roland Martin?
What are you doing? but also, why you doing that?
Yeah.
Why you spending this?
Why you over at these churches? Yeah, why you over in this community? Why you in this Latino community? Why you over here at these suburbs? We had to go everywhere. And I think when you did that, we got a combination of folks that came together and a coalition that was highly motivated to help deliver what we needed to deliver. We have Democrats, we're a coalition. We're not like Republicans. We're not a monolith. You know, they fall in line behind Trump.
Yeah, but also
Democrats,
the reality is, I keep telling everybody, the Republican Party is largely a white party. The reality is, and the Democrats, they have a much larger tent.
Yeah.
You got to satisfy a lot of different constituencies, and you just can't just say, you know, we're going to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Yeah. We love God, and we love guns.
Yeah.
Or as Howard Dean said, God gave guns.
Yeah, we have to have a much more diverse menu for everything that we do. We have to give people an opportunity. You know, like I tell people, we just passed a $200 billion budget last week. That budget has something in it for everybody. Everybody that believed in us, that got something, we delivered something that they could believe in and go home and be excited about. And that is what you must do. We don't get to just be a monolith in our party, and that's great. That's what I think makes us a stronger party.
A couple more questions for you before we let you go. I talked about going everywhere. I'm a firm believer. I don't like just looking at end results. I'm also about how did it get done, how it got done. So when you were the minority leader, did you pull the data and say, where did we lose? How did we lose? What were the margins? What were the counties? What were the precincts? Because that's what I keep. One of your delegates came up to me before. I spoke earlier today to the Northern Virginia Pastors Association, and I was telling them, I said, y'all got to stop doing these big, broad, get out the vote thing. I said, no, you got to have targeted efforts. I said, but you got to be able to study the data. And here's what was crazy. When I asked them, here y'all have this town hall, more than 200 people were in there. I said, did you collect the data of everybody sitting in here? They didn't. I said, this is part of the problem. You have a town hall, you don't even know who's here. You gotta have names, addresses, phone numbers, emails to understand how not to move people.
Well, when I became minority leader, I fired all of my vendors. I fired all of them. All right. The first thing I do is I want to look at process. How do we get here? And then I want to start over with people who are hungry as I am, because I knew I only had one shot. Okay. I was going to be out of there if we didn't win the majority. And so I looked at the process. I looked at precinct by precinct. I looked at demographics. I looked at the data. Every decision we made was data driven. And we knew who we had lost. We knew what communities we had lost. We knew what we needed to target. And we knew that the margins were so thin that we needed to focus on those folks. We didn't win 64 seats by having blowouts. We won by thin margins in a lot of different communities. We won every single district that was a toss-up district this last cycle. All 13 toss-ups that Donald Trump had won, we won. That's what we did, because they were razor-thin margins, and we won them all.
And we're at the point now
That's how we got 64 seats.
And we're at the point now where you win by margins, which is why I say every vote absolutely matters. And when you micro-target,
you have to micro-target.
That's how you actually end up winning.
You have to micro-target. You have to be intentional. You cannot be embarrassed to be intentional about telling people, hey, I'm trying to get your attention. I'm trying to shake you so I can talk to you, so I can get you out of that chair or get you out of the, I think there's a lot of apathy towards voting now, especially with the younger community. We have to continue to work hard to communicate with them. I tell people all the time, it costs Democrats twice as much money to communicate in these communities that are disenfranchised, that are apathetic, because we have to really shake them to get them to listen, to understand, and that's what we have to do, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Last
and
question.
That's why we're going to continue to win here.
Last one point for you. Make that point.
Jay Jones.
Which camera is his? Which camera is Speaker Scott's? Which?
Right here?
Right here. No, over here. Over here. The camera right there.
In the middle.
Tell National Democrat and donors that very point in terms of how they must be spending properly in black communities if they expect a massive turnout in November.
I mean, it's like anything that we do, there is no return on zero investment. We have to make huge investments to get the returns that we need to win in these elections. And we have to be very intentional and direct with the voters that we want to win over. If we don't do that and take them for granted, they will stay home. We're not losing elections because we don't have the message. I'm tired of hearing people say that. We're not losing elections because we don't have the ideas. We're losing elections because we're not making the investments in communities where they believe that we actually care about improving their lives and the lives of their children. That is why. Thank you.
All right, Fred, I appreciate it.
06.
My Alpha Aggie right here. So I'll tolerate Sterling. We'll mention the other two. Well, I will see.
All right, folks, if you want to see all of our interviews from the night, simply go to our YouTube channel and check it all out. Let's talk about Donald Trump's Justice Department continuing to attempt to suppress votes. Again, it is their continuation war on black America. The DOJ has sent letters to election officials in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, warning them that they could face criminal prosecution for allowing non-citizens to vote, even though they already can't vote. The letters were signed by the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, who is pathetic. It gives states 5 days to explain how they will comply with federal voter eligibility laws and ensure their voter lists are accurate. Dillon announced on social media that the DOJ will deploy federal election monitors to 15 jurisdictions across 6 states during the 2026 primary season. This is what she had to say.
In 2026, in this upcoming primary season, the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, as it has done for decades, is this year sending election monitors into 15 different jurisdictions in 6 states. And those states are Arizona, Michigan, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Virginia. And we're sending the monitors into cities.
Joining me now, Robert Weiner, the Director for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law Voting Rights Project, Melanie Campbell, President and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. Glad to have both of you here. I'm going to start with you, Robert. Non-citizens voting is non-existent. I mean, and this is just the latest example of these people just trying to create nonsense. These states already know this. These states run elections all the time, but this is just more BS coming from this administration.
No question about it. This is the administration trying to intimidate public officials who are responsible for voting. This is the administration trying to undermine public confidence in the integrity of our elections. In fact, voting is safe in this country. Our electoral systems have integrity, but this president wants to create chaos and lack of confidence, and he wants to use the chaos that he creates to justify setting aside the results of elections that he doesn't like.
Melanie, I remember when Fox News was whining, complaining about members of the new Black Panther Party at a couple of polling booths in Philadelphia. They were actually black polling booths. What this here is, as Rob said, is absolutely voter intimidation. That is their aim, and they want to scare people from showing up.
Oh, most definitely, Roland. And the reality is, this is just the beginning of the chaos. One of the things that we know that was tested was what they did in Georgia when they went into Fulton County and snatched ballots. The idea that they're going to use ICE, the idea they're going to use every weapon they can, is something we just need to be prepared for. And the question is how to make sure that we're prepared for it. It's very different when you have a federal government using legal, not legal, but using law enforcement, federal law enforcement agencies to actually try to hijack this election. So the idea that DOJ is going to send monitors is just another tool that they're using against the idea of free and fair elections. And so we have to try to do all we can to fight back. I know the Lawyers Committee love you all so very much, and the legal organizations are doing all that they can, but we also have to have our own front line, if you will, in these polling places. They know that people who are non-citizens aren't voting, but that's not the point. The point is, as has been mentioned, is intimidation to get folks not to show up. The point is what they did with the Haitian community and going after the Haitian community. And their idea is they can shave off. I was listening to your interview just a few, right before this, where the reality is elections are won, on the margins. You get enough of shaving away of fear and intimidation, people just won't even show up at all for fear that they can run into law enforcement and harassment, or even being jailed for no reason. So we've got a big fight ahead, but the enemy's showing the hand. We have to be prepared for it.
Absolutely. And again, look, voters have rights. And I've said this here, Robert, that, they're calling for these Republicans to be monitors. Well, guess what? Progressives and independents and others got a right to have election monitors, too.
We got to show up, Just the fact of monitors, it would not be troubling by itself. We had monitors when I was in the Justice Department. We monitored 800 communities in 2024. But when you put it in the context of the threats to voting officials, when you put it in the context of threats to cut off funds to jurisdictions that don't toe the line, then you have to say, we have to look at monitoring very closely. And we have to make sure that it is done properly, impartially, that it is done well. And, the problem with elections in this country is not who is voting. The problem is who isn't. And that's what we should be devoting time to make sure that everybody who is eligible is registered and that they get out and they vote.
Melanie, we made it perfectly clear. If you want to see this nonsense end, the only way to shut it down is at the ballot box. That is to overwhelm ballot boxes nationwide.
And that's it. We have to overperform in this election. We have to turn out in presidential election numbers, if you will. And that's the work. That's the hard work between now and when early voting starts. And assume that we have to also have our democracy defenders. I know that the faith community is doing. I know you guys are doing. We all are working together. We know all the things that have been happening. Looking at, I'm a Commonwealth resident in Virginia, so we know we have to do what we need to do. But whatever we're doing, we can expect more. And I'm with you that monitors normally wouldn't be a problem, but if you're monitoring to intimidate people, that is what you're coming in there to do. And if they show up with ICE agents, if they show up with FBI, all these things that they have at their disposal, the rule of law is not something that they are interested in. It is to use their ability to control legal law enforcement for the purposes of intimidation. And we've lived for a year and a half of this now, and even people losing their lives. So we have to be prepared for that at that ballot box and make sure that we have as many folks there as possible to be on the front line of protecting folks' right to vote. And use all the means. They're still trying to mess with early mail-in ballots. And so there is an attempt to control who gets to vote. And so we know it, and we're going to have to keep fighting for it. And the only way, you're right, that we're going to be able to change it is to change who controls those power levers.
Indeed. Rob, we're going to, Melanie Cameron, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, I want to bring in my panel right now. Talk about this here, and of course, lots more we'll be discussing over the next couple of hours. Joining us on today's show, Rob Portillo. Rob Portillo, he is out of Atlanta, civil rights attorney, Portillo Law Group. We have Rebecca Carruthers, President, CEO, Fair Election Center out of Washington, D.C. Also, Joy Cheney, Joy Strategies out of D.C. as well. Glad to have all three of you here. I'm going to start with you, Robert. Trump is really, they've been going after Fulton County. They got denied trying to get the addresses and the names of the people who work there. I mean, this idiot is he's butthurt because Joe Biden kicked his butt in 2020 and he lost Georgia. He keeps yelling it's rigged. There's no evidence whatsoever. And so you take this, you take them threatening to withhold terrorism funds from states who don't do what they want to do. I mean, this is, when we talk about rig elections, what Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying to do, they're trying to rig the November election so Republicans can win.
The best thing about Donald Trump is he tells you exactly what he's doing. Whenever he accuses someone else of something, that's exactly what he is doing. So he says we stole the 2020 election. That meant he was planning on stealing the 2024 election, the 2026 election, and the 2028 election. When he says someone else is corrupt, remember when he talked about Hunter Biden? He has been hundreds of billions of dollars more corrupt than Hunter Biden could have ever imagined being corrupt with his charisma or with his paintings, etc. And what we know right now is when President Trump talks about these election issues, or elections not being fair, not being secure, how we have to path to save that, what he is actually saying is, I have every intention of rigging this coming up. I'm going to use every lever of power possible to steal this election. He's making it very clear that he says it to Republicans all the time. We have to pass the SAVE Act above any other piece of legislation, because if we do not have it, I will be impeached. You will be put out of power. If we allow the American people to have an actual voice in our democratic system, if they are actually allowed to express their concerns and vote for the candidates of their choice, we will lose. So we need to understand this, the lack of outrage nationally is the most concerning and deafening part. There's a reason when Donald Trump got into office, the first thing he did was go after social media companies. He had Zuckerberg, he had all the big social media people, Elon Musk at inauguration. Then he went after network television. He went after the newspapers to install his own MAGA loyalists in every part of media. The reason for this is you have more people spending this summer debating the Spend That Ish challenge than talking about whether or not we will have the right to vote come this fall. And until we can break through to people and help them to understand the importance and gravity of what's coming up, what is happening right now, we're not going to be able to break through. And the first place we have to go is to all these MAGA celebrities who decide to perform for President Trump at America 250. And say, well, if you're going to be taking that check from President Trump, I need you talking about voting rights the remainder of the year. You got to make your money however that is, but I want you going out here and using that money to make sure we are informing our people and turning out the vote for November.
Rebecca.
States are already doing their constitutional role. Their constitutional role is to make sure that they are correctly administering state and local elections. They're correctly administering federal elections that happen within state borders. States are able to properly vet, to determine, to make sure that those who are registering the vote, those who are casting their ballot, are indeed eligible to register the vote and are eligible to access the ballot box. The reason why we see this particular president and the reason why we're seeing this puppet Department of Justice that has virtually cleaned out all of its voting rights attorneys who have been there for decades, who are steeped in constitutional law and steeped in voting rights and election law in this country. The reason why the Department of Justice fired all of those people, the reason why the administration is hell-bent on making sure that voters who are eligible aren't turning out is because they know that their policies aren't popular. The point is this, is that anyone in this country that is eligible to vote should be able to register the vote and cast their ballot and for their ballot to count. And unfortunately, this president doesn't want any of those things to happen.
Joy.
That's absolutely right. The other thing I think that is clear is that we have to make sure our groups are ready. So I want to make sure that our civil rights organizations, our fraternities, sororities, whomever, that we're working in concert with other groups who are also being impacted. Are we educating our voters? Are we registering voters? Are we making sure people are working as poll workers? Are we doing all of that? Are we giving money such that we can have ads, social media ads, TV ads, whatever way we need to do it? Are we buying time during Love Island and other, BS television that we watch? I was doing work actually for Melanie, and we were doing some work where we were pulling up Nielsen ratings. African Americans spend more than 40% of their time watching TV. This is more than any other group. So are we taking those opportunities? We can have a debate about whether that is a good thing. But are we taking our time and saying, we're going where the voters are, and we're going to be putting our resources? I feel like we're talking a lot, and we know what needs to be done. But just like they did in Virginia, they didn't just talk about it. They actually did it. They fired anyone they needed to fire. They hired who they needed to hire. They actually went forth and implemented it. One of the things this administration is so good at is distracting everyone to make you think there's nothing you can do, so you don't do the things that you can do. We have to focus. We cannot do everything, but we have to say, how much money do we have for our social media platform buys? How many videos are we doing? How many people are they reaching? Roland, you talk about that all the time. How many people are you reaching? Or how much money are we spending on Black media to reach people? How much money? And when we get there and when we have those, are we talking tangibly about what they need to do? We can't just talk about what the Justice Department is doing. They're doing it to intimidate. We have to say, guys, they're going to be there. They're going to do even worse things. We have to be prepared no matter what. You show up. We have to be that tangible, credible voices if we are going to overcome them in November.
All right. Folks, hold tight 1 second. When we come back, more on Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, Give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bree Baker, and my good sis, Jameer Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann, and you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
The Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled that guardianship records for ineligible voters remain confidential. The case has been in the court since 2022. It stems from attempts by conservatives for years to overturn President Joe Biden's victory in Wisconsin over the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief, that con man Donald Trump. The Wisconsin Voter Alliance, a conservative activist group, claims the number of people ineligible to vote doesn't match the count on Wisconsin's voter registration list. The organization wants counties to release the records when someone was deemed ineligible to vote, arguing those records are public. An attorney for Walworth County says they cannot do that without releasing names and addresses of those people. The Supreme Court agreed, ruling that the records are private and do not need to be released. All right, folks, many polls indicate that millions of people are frustrated with politics and question the value of voting. In fact, if you look at this recent Jubilee conversation, Governor Wes Moore debated a group of 20 non-voters. However, the conversation lacks a focus on solutions. A comprehensive multiracial study of the disaffected electorate shows that they are reachable. These individuals are more likely to take action when they feel a sense of belonging and can see the tangible impact of their efforts. Sojourn Strategies, Ariel Research Partners, and Richard Shafranek discovered that 35% of the U.S. electorate, approximately 85 million people, are considered disaffected, characterized by high levels of disillusionment and low levels of trust in government and politics. Lead researcher Dr. Katrina Gamble, the CEO of Sojourn Strategies, joins us right now. I'm glad to have you here. Katrina, one of the things that I have always said when I travel this country, and I come into face with a lot of people, folks, high income, middle income, low income, people who know politics, who don't. And what I often get from people is that they say, I don't know what to do, I don't think it matters. And what I'm often trying to do is connecting the dots, getting them to understand on a micro level how this one thing you care about actually, there's a line that's local, that's city, that's school district, that's county, that's state, and that's federal. Give us a sense of what you discovered doing this study.
Right. Thanks for having me, Roland. And absolutely, we want to understand
as several of your previous speakers said, how do we get the people who aren't voting voting? And we all understand that people are frustrated with elections and politics and even government right now. And what our research was focused on understanding is not just are they frustrated, but who are these people first? And second, what are the pathways to actually bring them back into the voting and civic engagement process? And one of the key things that we found is that, as you said at the top, that this is nearly 35% of the electorate is feeling this way, and that this feeling of disaffection is grounded in real experiences of distrust and frustration with elections and politics. And so the solution to bringing people back in is going to require something more than just simply quick message testing and things like that.
So how do we then reach them? What are the ways to do it? One of the things that I have long called for is I call it citizenship education training, workshops, teachings, things along those lines, in person and virtual. And I say, listen, they should be on a weekly basis. There should be especially in southern states, every single week, a church or community group should be having these sessions. Gary Chambers does this in Louisiana, teaching people the basics of politics. I call it City Hall 101, School Board 101, County Government 101, State Government 101, Federal Government 101. What do the people say how they want to be communicated with and reached?
Right. So first, there's two things I want to emphasize. To reach these people, we have to know who they are. And one of the things that we found in our research is that the people who are disaffected, not surprisingly, they are majority young, over 52% of them are millennials and Gen Z. These are people who have lower levels of resources in terms of income and education. So you could imagine these are the people who are economically strained right now. They're struggling. And so we need to know who the people are we're trying to reach first. And second, the research found that even though these people are disaffected and frustrated with government and politics, there are some clear pathways. To your point about local elections, even though they don't trust federal government, they trust the state government a little bit more. The place that we found where people trust the government the most is local elections. So one of the things we say is start with conversations about local politics. I think that's a good way to start building trust and engaging people. And the biggest thing we found is that the biggest predictor of this segment of folks to participate in elections is increasing their sense of belonging. Making sure that they are connected to organizations, that they are connected to people, that they are connected to organizations within their community. We actually found that if people had a higher sense of belonging, they were 2.5% more likely to say that they would vote in the 2026 elections if they didn't have any sense of belonging.
You have here we go to my iPad. Identify messengers who share working class experiences and lean into working class values that address the immediate struggles disaffected face. Bishop William Barber, one of the things that he always does, he emphasizes, is that he wants affected voices speaking. When they have events, the Poor People's Campaign Repairs of the Breach, they don't want just they don't want entertainers, they don't want the politicians, they don't want those folks speaking. They want affected people speaking and explaining what they're dealing with. They want them to be centered. Is that what you're talking about here too?
Yes, absolutely. We asked a question about who do you listen to about elections and politics, and people were very clearly, they named two things. People like myself, right? So we already said that these are working class people. So working class people and their friends and family. So it has to be people that they trust. And then we asked a question of who do you feel most connected to? And they said that they feel connected to working class people and people like themselves. And so the data shows that if you are trying to reach people who, for good reasons, feel very distrustful of the political industry, the people who you need to be engaging and rebuilding that trust are, like you said, the people who are affected. So other working class people, and you have to be actually speaking to the things that are front and center for them, which for this group of people, it really is the financial strain that folks are feeling in this moment.
Rebecca?
Katrina, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. So here's my question. With this study, with this research that you're releasing, what's the feedback that you're getting from it? Are you hearing from politicals? Are you hearing from parties? Are you hearing from organizations? Are people generally receptive? Do they understand the importance of this type of research? Yes, we've presented this research at a couple of different places since it's been released. And I'll tell you, most people immediately get it and they understand the impact of the research. They think it makes sense. It's not surprising in this moment where people are feeling deeply isolated and frustrated that the solution to bring people back in is to engage in community building, trust building in small spaces, to bring people back into a process that they feel like has failed them as election cycle after election cycle. So people understand it. The biggest thing that we're hearing from folks is that how do we shift the work that we've previously been doing that is like super transactional, dropping into Black communities and communities at the last minute with a quick ask to vote. How do we get funders and other folks who are invested in campaigns to shift their strategy to actually investing in the type of work that allows organizations to go in and do the community building that Roland was mentioning and building that type of trust to then move people to the ask about voting. You have to actually invest more deeply in the process if we want to bring those people who are already on the margins back into the process.
Joy?
Did you all do anything that kind of did a cross-section of socioeconomic status for each of the people that you were researching and talking to? So like, do people at, different economic strata, do they have different young people, do they respond differently?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I think was different about our research project that I'll name is that this research project was over a 4,000 person sample, and we intentionally had 1,000 person sample from each of the major racial ethnic groups: white, Black, Latino, Asian American. So we didn't do just a simple oversample of people of color because we wanted to deeply understand how different communities are experiencing frustration and their experience with democracy in this moment. And the interesting thing that we found is that this sense of disaffection, it is a sentiment that exists across race. So Black, white, Asian American, Latinos, this is a major problem regardless of race. But what we did find, to your question, Joy, is that yes, this is something that is especially prominent among young people. Over 30-something% of millennials are feeling this sense of deep distrust and frustration with politics, and a large segment of Gen Z are feeling that same way.
Okay, but before I go to Robert.
And it was regardless of,
no, go ahead.
One
go ahead,
follow-up.
Go ahead.
It was regardless of their socioeconomic status? Because I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like young people, regardless of socioeconomic status, or did you all measure that?
Yeah, we did. The disaffected electorate also tend to be more working class. Over 30% of the folks who fall into that 35% segment are actually people who make incomes less than $30,000. So the people that we're talking about, they're younger, and they're people who are struggling financially.
In terms of to that particular point, when you talk about disaffected, and did you ask them, or did they articulate where they are getting their information from, or are they also out of the information loop?
Most of them are getting their information from social media, especially young people are especially getting, when we ask questions about where you're getting your news, the vast majority are getting their information from social media channels. That's where people are getting their information. And to this point, most of them do not trust most news sources. And so they're getting their information from the channels that they follow and the people that they trust, and whatever information is moving through those vehicles. So television and some of the other like newspapers, especially for young people, very few of them said that they were getting their information from those particular news sources.
Robert?
Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. It reminded me of the work about 30 years ago, a political philosopher out of Atlanta, Andre Benjamin, and his seminal work, Get Up, Get Out, where he said, they're telling me to get out and vote. Why? Ain't nobody running black but crackers, so why I got to register? I can think of some other stuff to do. And I articulated the nascent concerns of the disaffected youth of the 90s, particularly of African-American males, about the transactional nature of voting, the idea that whether you vote or not, you're going to have a similar outcome. So why bother doing so? What emphasis do you think the current political parties need to place on actually providing a articulable roadmap to young people to motivate them to vote? It's hard to say, well, if you vote now in 2026, then maybe in 2028 you can vote again, and then maybe by 2030 we can get something done. It's difficult to motivate people with that when they want immediate change and immediate handling of their current concerns, because there's very few people on the national level actually having conversations about the needs of Gen Z and younger voters in particular, but we expect them to turn out at these like Obama 2012 numbers to vote.
Absolutely. And I'm actually, I really appreciate you naming this idea of voting specifically, because that was one of the other really big findings we found in this research. We went into it assuming that people who feel disaffected, that they are apathetic and that they mostly have checked out of elections and politics altogether. And what we actually found is on a number of other measures of civic participation, that they are as active as people who are not disaffected. So they are actually more likely to say that they were going to sign a petition or participate in a boycott in the last 12 months than people who are not disaffected. The thing that they're not doing is voting. And so the reason why they're not voting is because, and we did this in our focus groups, we talked to them, is that they feel like that it doesn't matter. So they're making choices to do the things that they believe can actually affect change. And some of those things are donating to mutual aid and like working directly with people in their communities, joining boycotts and things like that. And so if we are going to do the work of bringing these folks back into the actual action of voting, there are several things that people are saying. They want politicians to actually deliver on their promises. A lot of them articulated that I showed up and I voted and people said they were going to do all these things and then nothing happened. And so I chose to focus on my family and take care of my community. So we need people to actually deliver on the things that they're promising. And they want to make sure that they feel seen. A lot of the people that we talked to in the focus group said things like they're there making decisions and they have no idea what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. And so they're looking for people who can understand their experience and are actually delivering on the promises that they make when they're running for office.
See, when I hear all of that, and I get it, I totally understand it. And this is where, again, I believe lack of political understanding is part of the issue. For years, I'll go back to 2008. I remember being on Wanda Sykes' short-lived show on Fox, her talk show, and she said, well, we did our part. And I said, no. I said, voting is not your only part. You have to stay engaged after the election to put pressure on these folks to do what they said they were going to do. And I've done this on radio shows in numerous places. And folks are sort of like, wow, really? I'm like, yeah. Two, as you were talking about folks who say, well, I just don't think it matters. Or, well, they were supposed to do this here and then it didn't happen. Also, I think a lot of people don't understand you might vote for said person. Let's just say school board or city council member. But if it's 9 council members, that person's gonna need 4 other votes. You gotta get 5 out of the 9. And what I've encountered are a lot of people who really don't understand that, yes, you might vote for an individual, but there are other pieces of this political thing. If you say I voted for this person for president, and if you voted for the Democrat, but the Republicans control the House and the Senate, guess what? A lot of your stuff ain't going to get passed. And so was that showing up, and did they speak to that in terms of what is going to be required to walk people through the reality of what politics really is about? Because I just think, again, and I've been encountering people for years, Katrina, I just think people just go, oh, well, I elected so-and-so, nothing changed. Well, they're one of 200, if they're in a majority in the House, one of 218. Black people were mad. Democrats, they ain't done nothing with George Floyd Justice Act. No, it passed the House. It didn't pass the Senate. And so did you see that in this survey?
We didn't ask questions that got specifically at what you're articulating there, Roland. But one of the things that I will say as someone who has been in this work for many years is that, in part, the way that we organize people to vote is created the situation that you're naming, because oftentimes, especially for the Black electorate, we show up just a month or so before the election and we create this urgency and we tell people that they have to vote, and if they vote, that this is the thing that is going to change things. And so in part, many of the people who are doing this work they are creating that false sense that voting is going to solve all of the problems. So one thing I would say is that part of it is we have to readjust how we organize and talk to Black voters. The other thing is that over the course, not just in this survey, but in other research that we've done, is that we have found when people are, to your point, brought into organizations where they are a part of a community, where they are developing their own civic education and leadership development, they understand their agency in the process, not just with voting, but other forms of civic action, that they're much more likely to be engaged. So I agree with you that the solution isn't just voting, that there are other things that need to be done, but I think it's part of the job of the people who are doing work around the political industry and political education to make sure that people understand the full process, understand their power in this process, and bring them into organizations that can show them how they can have an impact, hold people accountable outside of elections. And I think people are actually looking for that. From some of the things that people said in the focus groups, they're saying that they want to be more connected to their community. They want to be a part of organizations where they feel seen and they have a voice. But many of them are articulating that they don't have those spaces where they live, or no one is inviting them into those types of spaces.
You know, there's a book that I'm actually, literally, we are writing it and editing it right now. It's called Black Forward, where I talk about this very thing. And one of the things that I have been really focusing on, and I talk to Bishop William Barber a lot, and I'm always talking about how we have to go from micro to macro, how we have to look at this thing totally different. Again, I grew up, the reason I am politically astute, the knowledge that I have, is it wasn't top down. It was because my parents were co-founders of a civic club. That was as micro as you can get. And I often talk about in my speeches where I say you can't have a great nation without great states. Great states require great counties. Great counties require great cities. Cities, neighborhoods, blocks, streets, houses, families, one person in the house. And then it goes in reverse. Individual, family, neighbors, street, block, neighborhood, city, county, state, nation. And I think that when we're talking about this notion of belonging, I really do believe that it has to be micro. And the micro piece has to be community driven. And then when you start dealing with people with community driven issues, then they begin to learn, oh, wait a minute, that's the county. Oh, that's the city. Oh, that's this department. Oh, that's not, okay, we don't call the police chief. We don't call the deputy chief. We actually call the district commander. You actually begin to learn how politics works. And you begin to learn how all of these things are all interconnected. And I read about that in the book, that this is what it's going to require And it's also going to require these vote organizations, and I've told many of them as well, you can't, we built up these massive institutions only around the elections, and soon the election is over, they disappear. I said, no, they have to actually now switch into now policy role. And if you're going to be having these rallies and meetings, collect the data and now keep the folks involved after the fact. But yeah, if it's only you approach somebody and saying vote, 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 and they don't understand the process and also how long things may change, then they are going to be ticked off when they see nothing happens.
No, I agree with you 100%. And to your point of having to start micro and build macro, that's exactly what we found is that many of these people are very isolated. A large number of them say that they have very few friends, nearly a majority of them. And we had a whole list of types of organizations for fraternities, local community groups, different types of organizations. Many of them are not connected to organizations at all. So these are people who are very isolated from community. But when we ask them, over 52% of them say that they want to be more connected to their community. So it's not a lack of desire. I think that it's a lack of access to community. And so the way that we move people to engage despite this frustration and distrust is, to your point, we have to rebuild the civic infrastructure in this country. We have to start building what I like to call civic homes, places where we're creating deep senses of belonging and connection for people. And then we're providing trainings for them to understand their own agency and leadership in this democracy, and a place where they can work with other peoples in their community to actually have an impact. When people have the ability to do that together and they can see where they can win, they can see where they can push. Even if they don't win, they can see how they can get different elected officials to react to them. They start to understand their power, and that's how you can get them to engage in all forms of civic action, including voting. But with people who have this level of distrust, we can't just show up on their door in October and say, "Hey, will you vote?" It's definitely not going to work. The data shows that, and we can look at past elections, and we're seeing that when we show up in these last minute for people who have this deep distrust, they're not going to just show up to vote. You have to invest in this type of rebuilding of the civic infrastructure and creating deep sense of belonging to bring people back in.
Last question for you. I remember I was invited to a black male dinner with Vice President Kamala Harris at the VP's residence. November 2023. And I remember saying to her point blank, and then I said it to Quentin, the deputy campaign manager, and I said it to Cedric Richmond, I said it to others. I said, guys, listen, I said, if the election is in November 2024, I said, January to the end of July should be what I said, you should be having a litany of what I call educate, enlighten, inform discussions, where you literally are telling people, we accomplished this, walking them through these things. I said, you should have city council members, school board members, county commissioners, state reps, state senate, members of the House, holding I'm talking about thousands of town halls everywhere. You should have your volunteers. You talk about these civic groups having these small conversations as well to walk people through what you did. Because one of the things we saw in the data, there were a lot of stuff that Biden Harris did. People had no idea they did because they did a horrible job as a White House explaining to people. I said, so that's going to be January to July, and you have to invest. Your convention is in August. Then you're getting into September and October, the meat of the campaign. I said, if you don't do that in January to July, I said, you're going to be showing up in September, October, and they're going to have no idea what the hell you did. And I've said this to so many damn candidates, and I'm like, y'all have got to stop the normal way of running, because you're going to have to invest more time and energy on the front end. You need a longer runway than just this short 2, maybe 3 month window.
I could not agree with you more. We actually did research. We did Black values research in late 2022 and again in 2024, where we had found this large segment of cynical voters, and the data was showing us that you have to start early. You have to be having these small conversations. And honestly, we were sharing that information all over the place to whoever would listen. But we are trying to disrupt a political industry that is used to doing things a certain way. And so that's why we're out here sharing this research. We're trying to disrupt that and let people know that the things that work, and we have partners like an organization called Power Interfaith in Pennsylvania that are having these small, what they call soul food dinners in barbershops, in community centers, in churches, where they're meeting in small groups to talk to people, build trust. And they're doing these conversations over and over again to move people to become more civically engaged. That's the work. I know it doesn't feel super sexy and quick, but it's the thing that is necessary. And the data keeps showing us that that is what's necessary for us to bring in nearly 35% of the electorate back into politics. So,
and again, and the numbers also show, you move 5 to 7%, you switch the election because you're now in the narrow margins. Rebecca, the thing here is, and you asked the question in terms of sharing with these different people, here's a fundamental flaw, Rebecca, and that is these damn campaign consultants do not want to spend the money on things like this. They don't want to put it on the ground. They don't want to have it community driven. They just think that everything is solved with TV and radio ads.
Or they want to improperly vet Senate candidates, right? Which we've all seen. We've seen some of the video around that. Here's the thing. If we're saying that democracy is under attack, if we're saying that we're fighting for our future, then we need all of those with resources, especially donors, those in the donor class. Put your money where your mouth is. Many of us are having meetings with these very people and we're telling them, hey, there needs to be resources out in the field to make sure that there is proper voter education. The reason why it's so important this year is we have the leader of the free world. We have the president of the United States of America using his bully pulpit to attack relentlessly our voting system in this country. He is going on air. He is from the White House, from the Oval Office. He is saying that the election integrity of this country is under suspicion. He is also saying and doing other things by using every agency in the executive branch to attack voting rights in this country. He is relentlessly suing. He is threatening to withhold money from states. He is attacking vote by mail. He is attacking campuses from following the law, which says that campuses that receive federal funding are supposed to provide opportunities and register students to vote. He is hell-bent on making it tough for people to vote in this country, and we need donors. Not just political donors, but we need donors who support democracy, donors within civil society to actually move money into the field. It's not just my organization, Fair Election Center, that is suffering, but it is many organizations. Like Melanie Campbell was on earlier. Many of our organizations have been starved out of funding in such a critical year. And so when we actually have data that Katrina put forth that shows you have to engage with voters if you want them to turn out, then why wouldn't we put those resources behind the very groups that are poised and actually have the expertise to do so?
Well, hopefully that happens. Katrina, tell people where people can actually go and see your information.
They can find the research at dpifund.org, and they can follow my organization at Sojourn Strategies on all social media channels.
All right.
And our website is sojournstrategies.com.
All right. We surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, coming up next, we'll talk with attorney Harry Downs about a couple of cases he's involved in. Also, those of you who are watching on YouTube, y'all hit the damn like button. Y'all sitting here commenting left and right. Y'all need to hit that like button. We easily should be at over 1,000. Why are we at 560? So we're on a commercial break. Hit the damn button. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars help to hit this show, the other shows on the network. Allows us to be able to build and grow. We've had more than 48,000 donors. Keenan, get me the new number. 48,000 donors since we launched this show September 4th, 2018. We would love to get to 50,000 donors by our 8th anniversary on September 4th of this year. So if you want to join us, please go to, if you want to use Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Also, of course, checks and money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Carolina black woman files a $15 million lawsuit against Gaston County and Advance Auto Parts after false accusations and arrest. 33-year-old Tamara Parker was falsely accused and arrested by the Gaston County Police Department for identity theft in September 2024. The lawsuit names the Gaston police officer, William Sampson, and Advance Auto Parts employee, Olivia Presley, as defendants. Joining us right now but first, now let's talk to Harry Daniels about that, his attorney representing them. Harry, walk us through this case. So they said she stole something?
Thanks, Roland, for having me on. Yes, this is the storyline behind this case is almost unbelievable. This is a situation where somebody used somebody else's account, bank account, to basically take or get iPhones delivered to a Advanced Auto Part store in North Carolina, right outside Gastonia, North Carolina, in Gaston County. My client goes to the store on a certain day looking for a part for her husband. He was fixing on a vehicle. Nothing unremarkable. That's going to the store. They didn't have the vehicle. They didn't have the part. She leaves. About a week later, a police officer shows up at her home with a search warrant, searching a house. I had an order to search warrant to take cell phones, iPads, as such. 3 months later, about 2 or 3 months later, she found herself being arrested for identity theft and theft, and basically stealing the cell phones. Later on, she proclaimed her innocence from the beginning, that she had nothing to do with this. She was accused. I had to go through the court system, had to hire an attorney. Eventually, her case was dismissed. Once we just got the discovery, we learned that the employee at the Advanced Auto Parts store actually sent a picture to the detective in the case, investigating the case, saying that on a certain day, May 20th, 24, that my client was at the store and took a picture of her vehicle. Well, on May 20th, 2024, my client was at a kindergarten graduation for her daughter. And GPS evidence proved she was never there. The police have knowledge of this. We believe that the information provided to the investigator was a ploy to implicate my client in a crime that she didn't commit, because we believe the person who actually maybe committed the crime worked at the store to try to throw the police off their tail. Nevertheless, my client case was dismissed. But during that time, she lost her home. She lost her job, almost lost her home went in foreclosure, credit. She spent money, her family is torn apart, and she's just now trying to put together the pieces for what happened to her back in 2024. This case is a case that's almost unbelievable what happened. The only thing that she did, she went into the store as a black woman, found herself charged, arrested, and her life basically turned upside down because somebody lied, and the police officer had evidence to show that she did not commit the crime, nor was she around in the area when the crime was committed.
Wow, that's a whole lot right there. Let's talk about this story out of Wilmington, Delaware, where a black family is demanding the release of the body camera video after Kadir Skinner was shot in the back while running away from a police officer. Police say Kadir pointed a gun at the crowd of people, but Skinner's family questions whether or not their son had a gun and claims he was running from a dog. Harry, walk us through this, who this young man was, and again, so they claim he had a gun?
Yeah, so Kadir Skinner, good kid from a good family, 19 years old. He, in fact, the day when he was killed by police, it was actually just before he was shot and killed, visiting his elderly grandmother. We've seen the video, myself and Attorney Crump, along with Attorney Chance Lynch with Ben Crump. We represent this family in this matter. We actually seen the body cam footage. The body camera footage hopefully be released to the public real soon. And on that body cam footage, you're going to see that Kadir Skinner is running from a dog. He's running from a dog. A police officer gets out of a squad car, chases him, and subsequently shoots him in the back, where Kadir ultimately died of his injuries. I mean, the allegations that he had a gun in his hand. Roland, I'll be first one to tell you, we saw the video. We did not see a weapon in his hand at all. And in fact, if in opposition, if he did have a weapon in his hand, he never pointed the weapon at police. He never threatened anybody with a weapon. And the law is very clear in that circuit. You cannot shoot and kill a person just because they had a weapon. He have to have some type of threatening moves or some type of move towards police or law enforcement. I mean, others or law enforcement. That didn't happen. This is a very tragic story. Like I said, we've seen the body camera. The body camera has not been released. I hope the body camera be released very soon so it can give some transparency to what happened to Kadir Skinner. Like I said, myself and Ben, we all over this case. There's more to come. This case will probably be thrust in the national limelight media once this video is released.
Yeah, it's amazing how all this time they haven't released the video. Normally, if it helped their case, that video will be out quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't help their case at all. I mean, this video it doesn't help their case. I mean, this video shows exactly what some of the witnesses said. He was running from a dog. You know, it's riding while black, shopping while black, boating while black, never running from a dog while black. You know, I don't know why the most dangerous thing to police officers is a black man running away from him. And this young 19-year-old kid with a whole life ahead of him, gunned down, and it's premature. It should never have been shot at all. And it's unjustified and it's inexcusable. And we hope that we can deliver some measure of justice to this family.
All right, Harry Daniel, surely appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Roland. Take care.
Folks, the investigation into the death of 19-year-old Nolan Wells is ongoing, and increasing speculation online is focused on one of the families linked to the July 4th boating trip. Ashley Cole, a judge on Mississippi's 16th Chancery Court, the stepmother of Warren Hudson, one of the white teens who accompanied Wells on the trip to Horn Island before he disappeared, issued a public statement after deactivating her Facebook account in response to the growing rumors about her family. Yeah, this is what she wrote. Our family, along with the community, grieves the loss of Nolan Wells. Our thoughts and prayers are with Nolan's family. Our son, Warren, loved Nolan dearly. Unfortunately, I feel that it is appropriate for our family to dispel some rumors with facts based upon the social media attention that is being diverted away from the Wells family and their loss. Yes, I deactivated my Facebook. Given the very heightened emotional state of social media right now, I fear for the safety of my child and my children. My husband and I have 6 children, and we covet their privacy. We do not believe it is appropriate for our minor children's photographs to be circulated throughout the internet, presenting potential threats to their safety. I graduated high school with Christine Wells Wansley. We are from the same community. I have the utmost respect for her and all of the Wells family. We mourn the loss of Nolan with them. Our prayers have been and will continue to be with them. My husband and I were not at Hone Island at any point on the 4th of July. No one in our family is trying in any way to impede with the investigation by law enforcement or to otherwise hamper the family and law enforcement's quest for answers. Warren was interviewed by the Gaston County Sheriff's Department and cooperated fully. He saw Nolan last at around 3 p.m. on July 4th. They left around 4:30 p.m. when the boat was taking on water and they had an issue with the bilge pump. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and return inland later with another group of friends. Yes, I am a judge. I also value transparency. I apologize if anyone was offended that I deleted my social media. There were no nefarious motivations in my deleting my social media. Social media has a lot of positives, but a whole lot of negatives. We live in a world of clickbaiting, sad but true. My family is hopeful that this information will help to redirect the attention to the Wells family, their grief, and their need for our community support. Folks, Nolan's family is waiting on the results of an independent autopsy that is actually being performed, according to attorney Ben Crump. This still, Robert, is a rather strange story. So here she says that they left around 3. Nolan chose to come back with another group of friends. Okay, where are those friends? And also, we've seen the social media video. There were a lot of boats in that area. If y'all have the video, play it, where they recorded Nolan arguing with several white male teens.
Yeah, well, I think the issue that many people have, and to the judge's statement on social media that it has both positive and negatives, one of the positive is it makes it very hard for people to bullshit you. In 20, 30 years ago, something happens, you have to take someone's word for it. But in 2026, there's GPS location on nearly every phone. Any Gen Z is recording 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a live stream. It's not just what people saw or what people said. It is about what is recorded. And I think one of the important things is going to be is police have already, anybody who watches First 48 knows that that initial period of time is what is important. Police should have interviewed every single one of those teens that were there. They should have subpoenaed the cell phones of all individuals involved to make sure they, not just that they had all video, but no videos were being deleted. We will probably never know how many different angles of what happened are recorded, and we probably don't have the ability to track those things down at this point in time. But to the judge's statement, she's only making things worse. She's only making things seem as if there's a bigger cover-up going on. I've had the same 5 best friends since freshman year of college. It's been 24 years. We've all been friends. I know where all of them are at any given time. And if one goes missing for any period of time, we will all come together like the Avengers to make sure I'm usually the person missing. But with that, this idea that nobody saw anything, nobody has any concept of what happens, I think is very unsettling to most people. And now there's a social media trend happening called Check on Your Brothers, where black men are literally walking up to black men who are the only black kids or black dudes in their social circle and just checking in with them to make sure they are okay and make sure they know that they are seen, that they're looked out for. And if anything happens, you have a brother around here who can help out. And I think it's important for us to reform this sense of community, this ability to communicate, because we've seen this happen too many times in recent years to the point that we can no longer say it's just a coincidence that so many times there's a group of people and the only black person is one who ends up dead.
Here's why I'm confused, Rebecca. This is a News Nation story as they were looking for him. It says, Wells didn't have his cell phone when he went missing. His parents, Christine and Elmore Wansley, now have the phone. Okay, Rebecca, for the life of me, I don't know any Gen Z that is not always with a phone. I'm Gen X. My phone's always with me. They are never not on my person. And so it's like, okay, so if he decided to stay back with another group of friends, he wouldn't have his phone? Why would his phone go back with the first group of friends?
That judge should have kept her mouth closed, because here's the other thing. In addition to how we know how people are with phones, especially 18-year-olds, especially teenagers, we know that phone is basically glued to their hand. Like, they literally do everything in life with their phone. They go to sleep with the phone in their hand. They shower with the phone in their hand. They go to school with the phone in their hand. Unfortunately, they be driving with the phone in their hand. Here's the other thing that we also know. If your child does not come back, and it's now getting dark, guess what's happening? Not only is that parent or those parents, those guardians calling law enforcement, they're also calling the parents and the kids that their child was with. So you mean to tell me, this is what my assumption is, you mean to tell me that a mother is calling around trying to figure out where her son is, but no one calls the police? You mean to tell me that they're telling their parents, presumably maybe this judge's kid or stepson or whoever the kid is in relationship to the judge, what they would say, oh, well, we left him because he said he'll figure out his way back, but oh, we also have his phone. So you mean to tell me within these households there wasn't conversations that happened that evening before the police was called by Nolan's mother? Like, none of that even makes sense. And so for her to even put together these words, like actually type these words and then post these words, she's a judge. And I know some of these judges aren't properly vetted, but come on.
All of this is baffling to me, Joy. And again, I'm just going to start with, if a person decides to stay back, they don't let you take their cell phone. A young person is taking pictures, taking videos, all that sort of stuff along those lines. How does the phone get separated from the kid?
I don't know. Listen, I unfortunately disagree with some of my co-panelists here. I don't think there was anything wrong with what this mother said, and she chose to say she was going to get off social media. Hell, I've gotten off social media when things get too hot. So I don't really have an issue with that. We don't know her son's involvement, what to the extent. We don't know anything. What we do know is it's suspicious. We do know that. I agree with you, Roland. I think it's very unusual that a young person, any person, would be separated from their phone, especially if they were that far out, right? That just feels unusual to us. The investigators are getting a lot of information right now. And what we have got to do is make sure that we are keeping the pressure up, that we want regular updates on this story, that we want to make sure everyone is investigated, including some of the parents who may have been engaged with some of they're adults, but some of their young adult children who may have gone to their parents and talked to them after the fact. We don't know that, right? So I'm sure everybody's cell phones will be, looked at, subpoenas, et cetera. All of that should happen. We should have a record, not just of the, parent social media. The parents weren't there, so that's likely irrelevant, but the children's social media is absolutely relevant. So if they eliminate their social media accounts, I think that's a horse of a different color. I hope that we're all seizing that information, that evidence right now. We need to know everything that happened on that island, proceeding to it, and importantly, after. What did they say about that situation? Did they try to coordinate their stories? All of that is information we need, both from the friends that he went there with, the so-called friends that he was remaining with, the girl that he was with, all of those people. I know they're being investigated now. That's the information that I'm looking for. The mother who happens to be a judge, I feel is a red herring, and I'm just not going to go down that rabbit hole. I think the main goal is, are we making sure the investigators, the sheriff, are they doing a thorough investigation, and are they being interfered with in any way, shape, or form in that investigation? Is it happening quickly? That's what we want to know. And what do his parents say about their engagement with the cops? Those are the things that I'm looking for.
We certainly will continue to cover this case. Time to go to break. We come back. Republicans love talking about illegal voting. But why is it every time we talk about folks who vote illegal, it's a Republican, such as Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton? That's next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
I'm Ryan Wilson, CEO and co-founder of The Gathering Spot, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Folks, crusading MAGA firebrand Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who built a career hunting down so-called voter fraud, may have committed some of his own 6 times. The 63-year-old is the convict-in-chief's pick for the United States Senate seat. He beat, of course, incumbent John Cornyn. Well, Paxton appears to have cast ballots in 6 elections over the past 2 years using an address where he no longer lives. Since February, Paxton has voted twice in Gaston County, once in the March Republican primary and once in May's runoff, in which he won the GOP nomination. Paxton's own office wrote the rules he appears to have broken. Just 2 weeks before this year's primary, he unveiled a voter fraud tip line, stating that, quote, "It is illegal to misrepresent your residence on election records." The alleged offense is not minor. Voting while ineligible is a second-degree felony in Texas. The crime is punishable by up to 20 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Now, see, of course, this is quite interesting because the Tarrant County district attorney who's up for re-election, who we need to be voting out. Black people, you should be mobilizing your ass off in Tarrant County. 9 years later, this man is still trying to put Crystal Mason in prison for voting in an election where her vote was not even counted. That's what's going on. But we can show numerous examples. We could just run a whole list of examples, Robert, of Republicans breaking voting laws while complaining about voter fraud.
Look, this is what we talked about earlier with Trump. Whenever they are talking about something, they are telling on themselves. And they're talking about voter fraud, they're committing voter fraud. And they're talking about welfare queens. They're stealing a whole bunch of money and heading there, they're welfare queens. They're talking about corruption. They're the corrupt ones. They do this great thing. You talked about it a little bit earlier, and I think we have to dive into it. The fact that Republicans are so much better with messaging, message discipline, and also continuing to push it out there. Donald Trump has shown us the blueprint. If you say anything often enough, people will just roll with it. We know that the election in 2020 wasn't stolen, but if you say it every single day for 6 years, people will start believing it. We all know that the economic numbers are cooked, but even just today at NATO, he was talking about how great the U.S. economy was. We know that Donald Trump lost the war in Iran and had to surrender to the Ayatollah. Today, he was talking as if he won. The thing about Republicans is they have figured out how to run politics without shame. There's no sense of moral. There's no floor to what they will do. And because of that, you have to treat them as such. They are 100% nihilistic. They are 100% results driven. And as you have seen, they are fighting for sheer and unbridled power. And it does not matter how they get there. So they don't care if they have to lie, steal, cheat, hook, or crook. they will do what it takes to win. And when you're fighting somebody like that, you can either do the Michelle Obama and say, when they go low, we go high, or you can simply say, we are in a brass knuckle knife fight, and I got to take my shirt off and swing around my head like a helicopter because it's time to get in here, make sure we make things happen. And I think we might be into the knife fighter point of politics when you're dealing with people like Ken Paxton, Donald Trump, and people who are literally willing to say and do anything to maintain political power.
Joy?
That is absolutely correct. I mean, we are in a literally a gunfight. We cannot bring biodegradable straws. We have got to show up in full force using every commentary pathway at our disposal. This is a man who's talked about voter fraud is committing voter fraud. This is a man who talked about family values. He's not divorced. He's out and about everywhere on social media with his mistress. This is a woman whose wife doesn't even want to have anything to do with him. This is an unacceptable person. He is not fit for the United States Senate. So just as we're talking about, our guy in Maine, we also have to be talking about him. These are people who are lowlives, and they don't deserve the distinction of being a United States senator. And we have to be able to say it. And so even as we may have our issues with some things surrounding James Tallarico, we do have to shift off talking about him and start talking about Paxton. I have not heard enough from Mr. Tallarico in terms of his fight against Paxton. It's still too polite. It's still too kind. And look, I'm polite and kind. I'm all for it. But we can't do that here. We cannot do that here. And it's not Jasmine Crockett's responsibility to do it. It is Mr. Tallarico's responsibility to do it. Everyone in Texas who is, in an authority position within the Democratic Party, where is the fight? It's just too polite. This man is making a fool out of us. And frankly, the voters of Texas and the Republican voters of Texas, because he is saying, it doesn't matter how disgusting I am. I know you'll vote for me anyway. And frankly, John Cornyn, where are you? You know who this man is. You should be saying something too, but instead you're going to support him. That is what we ought to be holding people accountable.
Rebecca?
I mean, this is corruption. We keep talking about why people don't want to vote. And we know that, what is it, over 80 million people chose not to vote. Over 80 million people who are eligible chose that it wasn't worth it. It's because of things like this. You literally have someone who is doing corrupt things, who is in charge of making sure of enforcing laws in Texas, who created specific laws in Texas, or who pushed for specific laws in Texas, especially around voting rights, and then is in violation of them. That's corruption. That's why many folks choose not to vote in this country, because they see elected officials like this. So to Joy's point, should Cornyn say something? Yes. It shouldn't just be Democratic elected officials or Democratic candidates speaking out against this, but it has to be people who are elected officials, period, regardless of party, to say, hey, this is wrong. This is corrupt.
Yeah, they're not going to say that.
No, because of white power.
Not going to say it. They're wimps. Folks, a federal judge has ordered the release of more than $5 million to former magazine columnist E. Jean Carroll after a jury found that the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump sexually abused and defamed her. The ruling follows Trump's appeal of the decision to the Supreme Court. They're like, nah, they're not gonna look at it. And now they said, let's reconsider. They got 25 days to make a decision. But guess what? Trump argued that paying the judgment before his appeal is resolved would cause him irreparable harm. However, the judge was like, no, son. The justice denied your request, allowing Carroll's attorney to seek the release of the funds. That money had been set aside in the court, so the $5 million already been given. Is one of two lawsuits Carroll filed against Trump concerning statements he made in 2022. Trump has also indicated plans to challenge the separate $83 million. Let me say it again, $83 million defamation judgment awarded to Carroll. He has until the end of the month to file that appeal with the Supreme Court. She whooping that ass in court, Joy.
Whooping it. I mean, she is fantastic. And then Democrats pay attention. She doesn't just win in court. She then goes on TV. She messages it. she locks it in. She locks in on him. She appeals to people and says, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is what he did to me. She doesn't allow him to escape and to let it go away. This is the point. This is the strategy. Not just the win, then message the win, then hone it in on the win. And she's actually very amusing. I've done some things with her before. She's a lot of personality. So, a great spokesperson, meeting him where he is. That is what we have to do. And I mean, I think that because he is so easily triggered, she understands her role in remaining out there and continuing to be sort of a thorn in his side. And she takes heat for it. I mean, it's not easy. She could easily go away and want to, rescind back into public life, but she takes seriously her job to do this, to be out there and to keep him distracted, continuing to fight her and to lose over and over and over again.
The bottom line is he sues everybody, Rebecca. So she's like, all right, I'm going to sue your ass.
And good for her. She should have added a 0 to that amount. I think that should have been worth a lot more than $5 million. Good for her. But like you said, this should be a playbook. It should be strategy of you can go after him and you can beat him in court. That's one of the things that we're seeing in terms of even challenging some of the things that the administration is doing is go after him in court, because many of I don't know who his lawyers are, but they don't have a good track record. So good for her. I wish it was more money for her.
Robert?
I think we're also just glossing over a very real thing here, which is the fact that the president of the United States is a rapist. I mean, it's been adjudicated time and time again. We've had nearly 30 credible accounts of him either sexually harassing, committing sexual assault, or just all-out rape. In the E. Jean Carroll case, the judge said his actions constituted rape for the purposes of this case. I mean, we have Stormy Daniels, we have Susan McDougal. We have a literal sex worker in the White House as First Lady right now, and Christian conservatives coming to lecture us about family values. So the fact that our nation has fallen to the point that you can have someone that we know is a rapist and owes a woman $5 million for raping her, and then another $83 million for defaming her after raping her, that then Supreme Court held up the defamation, the judgment against him for raping her, and it doesn't matter. LeBron James' free agency is getting more attention than Donald Trump being a rapist. I mean, we're putting more emphasis on the FIFA World Cup and whether or not Argentina cheated to beat Egypt than whether or not the president of the United States, who is in charge of the most powerful military and economy in the world, is a literal rapist. And we're not hearing any conversations about this on a national level. And that's why it's very hard when you have a Graham Plantner running for office. It's like, why are Democrats and the ones who have to step down, who have to run away, who have to stop what they're doing, and Donald Trump gets to skate by? Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, had to step down because he appointed somebody who was on the Epstein list. Donald Trump's all over the Epstein list, and he didn't even consider stepping down. So we have to evaluate what exactly it means as a country that nobody will stand up to somebody who is credibly accused 27 plus times of sexual assault, who has been held up by the Supreme Court as being a rapist and appears in the Epstein files more than anybody except Jeffrey Epstein. We have to figure out why this is acceptable as a country.
All righty then. Going to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support our work. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. Just hit right here on the screen. If you're listening, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Checks and money order. Make it payable. Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 70196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo RM Unfiltered. Zelle. Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Back in a moment. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing:
what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter right now, 724-264-8281.
Hey everybody, I'm T.D. Jakes, and I want to encourage you to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered. It'll blow your mind.
All right, folks, the Treasury Department is scrapping plans to feature Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. In a recent interview with Spectrum News, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent explained why.
Treasury is still planning to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill?
We are not at present.
And can you explain, I guess, the difference? I was at your briefing, I think, a month or two ago when you held up the $250 bill with the president. Why are those on different tracks?
Well, of course, first of all, the 250 requires an act of Congress because you can't have a living person, and it was to commit for the 250th anniversary. For us to change on an existing bill, whether it's a 1 through 100, takes many years in advance.
Folks, Ohio Congresswoman Joyce Beatty released a statement regarding this decision. She said, in all my years, I've never seen an administration so hell-bent on erasing black excellence from American history. Harriet Tubman was an American hero. She risked her life for freedom and shaped our nation. We're seeing another attack on black history and the generations of black Americans whose courage built this country. This is the same playbook from removing the portrait of the first black four-star general, Daniel Chappie James, Jr., to attempts to erase the history of slavery from our national parks. We cannot rewrite history, and we cannot ignore it. We must confront our history, learn from it, and ensure we never repeat its darkest chapters. I fought for years through my Woman on the 20 Act to ensure our nation's currency reflects the full story of America. My fight doesn't end today. Donald Trump may try to delay progress, but he cannot stop it. Harriet Tubman's place in the American story is permanent, and I will fight with every breath until her face on the $20 bill. This is just a continuation, as I keep saying, Rebecca, of their war on Black America.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if they're saying that we don't have enough time to make this change, wasn't this over 10 years ago in the making? So isn't 10 years more than enough time to make this particular change?
Go ahead, Rebecca. I'm sorry. Are you finished?
So
I know if you were finished. Go ahead.
Yep, I'm finished. My point is, look, they had 10 years. There's been 10 years in order to make this change. And for the Treasury Secretary to say, oh, that's not enough time, that's ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, we get it. It's white supremacy. They're at their last grasp of white supremacy. When it's done, when it's over, we're going to rectify everything that needs to be rectified in this country. But this is crazy.
Robert?
You know, at this point in time, because I was on the Hill when President Trump, what was the first thing they did? I was on the Hill when they took Jackie Robinson out of the U.S. Military Museum. We were there when we saw them attacking the Smithsonian Museum of African American History. We've seen them try to remove the names of African Americans and any achievements in U.S. history, calling it woke ideology. We've seen them rename bases that were previously named for Confederate generals, and has found a workaround to give them the same name but take away the name of the Confederates who were behind it. At what point in time do we just say, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, if it swims like a duck, it's a racist? And there's no point in trying to call out the hypocrisy among these things. You're not going to change the hearts and minds of white supremacists. We've been trying to do it for 200 years in this country. They just keep regenerating. We remember about 20 years ago, I think Oprah said, you know, America won't change until a lot of old racists die out. No, all that happens is a new generation gets re-radicalized. You have a generation of groypers and Proud Boys, etc., just to replenish the stocks. So what we need to make sure of right now is, instead of fighting back against what they do point by point and step by step, ensure that if we take back the House in 2026 and we take back the Senate and we take back the White House in 28, that at the minute that Democratic president sits down on the desk on January the 20th, 2029, we have a stack of black legislation that we want signed into law immediately. The same way that President Trump did his first 100 days, I need a different piece of black legislation signed 2 times a day for 100 days and passed directly through the Congress, no questions asked. I don't want to hear anything about a bipartisan committee, etc., because until we put these things into law, unassailable, unrepealable, except for by an act of Congress, we will keep seeing these things happen and we will be erased from history.
Joy.
That's absolutely right. Sometimes I'm like, Scott Besson, you're a minority in this administration. They hate you almost as much as they hate the rest of us. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, continuing to co-sign on their foolishness. The real question we ought to be asking for him is, what is he doing to ensure full employment of all of our citizens, including Black women? That was the question he got when he testified on the Hill. And he said he was going to be following up. I believe it was Ayanna Pressley who asked him that question. He said he was going to be following up. I have not heard the follow-up. Okay, I have not heard the follow-up. Last time I heard he's talking about Black women, he's talking about not putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. This is a relatively small issue, symbolically large, but, you know, in terms of the lives of people, so I want to acknowledge that. But this is why we have to vote. If you care about this, or if you care about full employment, or if you care about paid leave, or all of the Black bills that Robert has said that we need, you have to win. And in order to win, you got to have people vote in November. It's the same thing we've been talking about. Yep. They are never going to give us anything. And when we get it back, we have to get things done. Some of these things we could have already had been done, right?
Well, bottom line is, if you sit elections out, you have to suffer the consequences. Joy, Robert, Rebecca, I really appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. Folks, on Monday, Bishop William Barber and Repairs of the Breach continued having their Moral Mondays here in Washington, D.C. Here's some of what Bishop Barber had to say.
Why we do what we do and this rest of this call to action, I first want you to look at the person beside you, hold that for me, and just thank them for being here. I want you to thank them for being here. And then with live stream up, I want you to look around and think about who's not here. And I want us, if we're going to be prophetic, to do like Isaiah and say, Lord, we live in the midst of a people with unclean lips. We need to repent.
That's right.
I went to Germany, I told you all, to preach, and I asked the folk in Germany about what was going on, and did they like it, and they had one word, 999. Oh, wow. I asked them, did they want this president back since he had 999? One lady said 9. But then I asked them, well, they asked me, why is the church so quiet? Don't y'all know where this can end up? So they took me on a tour where you can see a building, and it's part of it's new and part of it's old, which is a symbol that that building was bombed. They took me to Berlin's Holocaust. There's a maze. It looks like just pits of cement. You get lost in the maze. And they took me to an affluent community that hid the train tracks where they brought in people. And down on the train tracks, it had the number ostrich 30, so on and so on, 40. And they shared with me that this occurred because so many people chose to be quiet. They took me to the church that after Hitler became chancellor had a communion service in honor of him. The church, the authorized church, the German church. And they took me to look at pictures where the problem with Hitler didn't start in the 30s, it started in the 1880s when the decision was made to redraw Jesus, to make him look Aryan. Take that one. So that then they could revision the story and say it was Jews that killed the white Aryan Jesus. And this was long before Hitler. They took me to the place where even the confessing church, we know the names, Bart, Bonhoeffer, at first didn't disagree with Hitler's violence toward the Jews. They just wanted to argue with the German church over doctrine, not public policy. And Bonhoeffer, who really says that he came to really know Jesus when he went to Abyssinian Church in Harlem. And he heard Adam Clayton Powell preach nothing but the red letters of the Bible. Okay. And he heard gospel music, and he heard the poetry of the Harlem Renaissance. And it was out of that, he said, he had to go back to Germany and challenge the confessing church to be stronger and clearer. You know, my sister just said something that was so powerful. We will not have spiritual laryngitis, but we do. Not y'all, but think about it. And this is not an attack, it's a wake-up call. That's right. How many churches and synagogues and mosques are there in D.C. and Maryland and Virginia? Why haven't 500 pastors, 300, just decided that we're going to engage in nonviolent civil disobedience every week? That's right. Who's stopping them from doing it? Come on. The truth of the matter is, if we're not careful, while we're here, and our purpose here is to be prophetic and to try to call people out, is we do have too much spiritual laryngitis in this nation. We also have too much preaching in the safety of Sunday pulpits and Saturday synagogues and Friday mosques. One day I'll tell y'all some of the things that happened to me because we chose to go over there, and warnings we were given about what to say and not to say in the sermon. Come on. Today. And so in some ways, y'all, we are kind of a strange thing. We're a remnant. All right. We like John the Baptist crying out. And we have to. Yeah. And we're not suggesting we're better, but you know the only victory against Hitler? I didn't know this. 600 women had their husbands taken from them. They were Jewish men. The women were Christian and Jewish and others. And they decided to stand up to Hitler nonviolently. They went to the place of power, and that word was, give us our husbands back. They put submachine guns on them, they dispersed, and then came back the next day. And it is the only successful action, because after, I think, 30 days, the Nazis relented and gave them their husbands back. Wow. But the question in Germany about that is, what if we had all stood up? Come on. Well. They don't even like you to celebrate the fact that the 600 stood up. They have a deeper question. They said, what if we all had stood up? Then maybe we wouldn't have seen not 6 million, but 11 million. That's another thing we learned about. The numbers are wrong, just like the numbers about slavery. It was 100 million. If you look at all the people that were lost in the Middle Passage and thrown to the sharks between Africa, the Caribbeans, and here. And when I was there, some of them said, we just pray that the church people of faith, and as we say, people who may not be of faith but who have a deep moral conscience, don't wait too long, or don't just think, if I do a nice litany about it, I have done my service in this moment. So August 3rd, you heard Reverend Jackson kind of tease out the table of democracy. We're going to tease that. I'm really asking our last one here, August 3rd, that everybody, what if we could get just 50 churches that said they'll send 50 members and the other Mondays around the country. But on August the 3rd, we are going to have a conclusion of this part of Moral Monday. And why did we start in D.C.? Not just to be in D.C., because D.C. is getting attacked and they can't even vote. They don't even get to vote on the people that's messing with them. They get sent to war and can't even vote on the people that's sending them. Right? Taxation without representation. So our intention was never to stay in D.C. It was to come and do what the scripture said, Jeremiah 22, go down to the palace. We're required to do that and say these things, whether they listen or not. But on August 3rd, we want to have a large day of repentance and call to action. And we've asked some denominational leaders and of different faith to come. And we announce that it's time to go home to the states. We really don't need to have a march on Washington. We need to have a march on the polls in the states. Because that's where the battle is. And we need to encourage that. We don't need to put millions of dollars into a one-day action in D.C. If we got that much money, we need to be giving it to people that's going to knock on doors and do buses and back in the states. Y'all can say amen. Ain't no. And that is not being ugly. That's just knowing history. See, because if you understand, they only marched on Washington one time, and then they had a piece of legislation that they were trying to pass.
That's right. Yep.
You don't just march on Washington. And there were 600 actions going on around the country in '63. People had been killed in Birmingham, Dulles, the Mega Evers. There was a whole lot of things that were going on. And when the call was made, by the way, it was on the same day that Emmett Till had been killed, August 28th. And it was because they knew that Strom Thurmond and others were going to put up a filibuster against the piece of legislation that Kennedy had announced. But they also knew that if they didn't put pressure, Kennedy was going to say he would do the Civil Rights Act and then back off. And they knew it was going to be filibuster, and they knew it was going to be cut. You know, the Civil Rights Act was diminished. That's why they had to call for the Voting Rights Act of '65, because the Civil Rights Act of '64 was gutted so bad by the time it got the full vote. So the purpose of the March on Washington, which wasn't just black folk, it was black and white and union and labor, was to drive this piece of legislation. It wasn't a fellowship. It had a purpose. It had a vision. Go back and read what, help me say it, Clinton Wright, Bayard Rustin, I always say it Bayard, but it's Bayard Rustin, and he read the agenda. He said, we want to raise the minimum wage to 75 cents and index it with inflation, which if they had done that, the minimum wage would be $20 an hour today. That was supposed to be in that Civil Rights Act. And he went down a list. It was not just a march because they were mad with the president. In fact, they were actually at that time fairly happy with the current president, but they knew they had work to do and they had an agenda, which is why at the end of the speech, which was not named I Have a Dream, the speech was Normalcy Never Again. And Julian Bond talks about in his book, It's Time to Teach, how there was a deal cut that if some people said the wrong thing, there was a person that was supposed to pull the plug so that the mics wouldn't work. And they cut John Lewis's speech because they said it was too radical. The egos almost got in the way, and A. Philip Randolph had to calm that down. Originally, the March on Washington was supposed to be in 2 days, marching around D.C., around the Capitol, became one. The unions got involved. But the speech was Normalcy Never Again. There was a march before the March on Washington in Detroit. where actually the I Have a Dream portion of the speech was much longer than what happened here in D.C. I'm teaching because it's an audience, to the audience out there and in here as well. And at the end, Dr. King said, go back. Go read it sometime to Louisiana. Go back to Alabama. He also, in his I Have a Dream portion, began to show with rhetoric how the real fight was in the state. He said, down in Alabama, where the governors whose lips are dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. He named that D.C. was not a one-time, it was a specific purpose, and to go back because the real battle was a state, and it was not an election year. The strategy of the civil rights movement is they never had mass gatherings in election year. In election year, they focused their attention at the states. All right. And so we're here, and on August 3rd, we're going to make that clear, and we're going to call for, what if we had 500 to 1,000 churches across this country, particularly in battleground states and in the South, and synagogues and mosques and other groups that would all on the first day of early voting lead marches to the poll? What would that look like? And then every day doing early voting, and then on election day, they would even do the same thing. Go to the states. August 3rd, somebody say August 3rd. Now the problem with what I just said, that was the Spirit saying, say that there's none of that's written. Come on now, that's all right. But my brothers and sisters that are listening to us, and what I like to call my siblings of conscience. Come on. We're here at this Moral Monday, and why are we here? Because of the craziness that went on Sunday, all of that unnecessary fireworks that has the air so bad that people with heart diseases and asthma and even people that are doing all right were told to stay inside. And we're here, if you will, on the high ground of justice. And we're here because we refuse to accept people telling us that poverty is personal failure and that the lack of health care is a luxury, and that the suppression, if you have tissue, suppression of our vote is standard politics. Part of the problem we have, my brothers and sisters, in this country right now, with MAGA and with Trump and with those who are following him, is they believe that the country was perfect at its beginning, and the amendments to the Constitution made it less perfect. And they want to go back to some unholy, immoral vision of a past perfection. And if we don't understand that, we don't understand the real battle that's going on. All right now. And we are here to represent a moral movement. We serve a higher law that demands us that we stand up, somebody said it, for the poor, the marginalized, the immigrants, the forgotten. And we've got to look at our nation constantly through this lens of moral truth, and we've got to look at the deep, painful contradictions being played out, particularly in our state capitals, across this country, by those elected in states, and the fact that most of them can go to church on Sunday or go to synagogue on Saturday or go to mosque on Friday and not be troubled. Come on. And not be troubled by what's preached. Did you see Sunday? This massive display of wealth, the theater, 850,000 fireworks. Can you believe that, Alvin? Watch this. I like Dr. Jackson. I'd like to read. What happened Sunday was 12,000 times the amount of fireworks that's ever been released in the world. It was a grand spectacle, a flash of light, a loud boom, and then absolute darkness. And here we are at this public pulpit. We had to come inside because of that. And we've got to ask a question. We've got to help this nation ask a question. That's why we're live streaming everywhere. We're trying to get people to talk. What sense does it make? How do you justify burning up millions of dollars in smoke when people are suffering in the streets? It makes no moral sense. There should be a massive outcry all this week, next Sunday and Saturday, everywhere. It makes no moral sense to fire off fireworks when millions of people are working full-time jobs but don't make a living wage. It makes no moral sense to celebrate freedom with expensive explosions when families are choosing between buying groceries and buying life-saving medication because they had basic health care snatched from them. It makes no moral sense to fund a temporary show while our schools are underfunded.
Folks, if you want to catch the full speech of Bishop William Barber, go to our YouTube channel and you can check it out. Just click live and you'll see the Moral Mondays that took place on Monday this year from D.C. He spoke with a number of other speakers, and so you definitely want to check that out. Folks, that's it for today's show. Thank you so very much for joining us. Do us a favor. Y'all been slacking on YouTube. 898 likes. Y'all, how we not at 1,000? Okay, that makes no sense. So y'all need to hurry up. We need 101 likes to hit 1,000. We should have 1,000 every single day. All right, so go ahead and get that done. If y'all want to contribute, join our Bring the Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. It goes to support this show and the other shows of the network. It defrays our expenses. Again, we don't have millionaires and billionaires cutting us checks, and so your support is crucial. And so we've got, we've had 48,000 donors. I'm going to get the actual updated number. I'll have it for you tomorrow. But let's hit 50,000 donors by our 8th anniversary, September 4th, 2018. All right, so do me a favor, folks. And contribute via Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's for credit cards as well. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. And send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One. Roku, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure, of course, to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Hats, T-shirts, all that good stuff. All right, so go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Of course, we've got our America 250 Got our America 250 shirts. Y'all pull those up, please. I told us I was supposed to have them ready today, so let's show them. Y'all forgot that yesterday, huh? Okay. Go find them. I said yesterday we were going to show them at this point in today's show. Y'all were not listening. They're in the system. So if you go to shopblackstarnetwork.com, you will see our America 250 shirts. We've got some quotes from some great leaders like Paul Robeson, James Baldwin, Harry Belafonte. And so again, you can check those out. We have those shirts available on the site. And so, for instance, we've got a shirt right here. America at 250, tell the whole story. That's one of the shirts that we have, and you can check that out. Let me go back here, and so you can check another one of our shirts. We have this one right here. Of course, this is James Baldwin. I love America more than any other country in this world, and exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. And so, Candy, y'all supposed to have America 250 on that shirt, so that's not right. So let's be sure to upload the correct shirt. And so those shirts, the James Baldwin quote, the Paul Robeson quote, the Harry Belafonte quote, those should have America 250 on the top and the quote beneath it. This is Paul Robeson. This is our home and this is our country. Beneath its soil lie bones of our fathers. For it, some of them fought, bled, and died. Here we were born and here we will stay. And so I don't give a damn what Donald Trump has to say. So go to shopblackstarnetwork.com for our shirts. Folks, also support our black-owned companies. We got more than 50 companies on our marketplace. And so if you go there, you'll see all of the different black-owned products. All these products that you see in our studio, all of these products right here are available at shopblackstarnetwork.com. We should have a tight shot, one of the cameras. So all those products, y'all name them. We got puzzles and backpacks and sauces and all sort of stuff. All of that's available at shopblackstarnetwork.com. So please check it out. All right, folks, that's it. I appreciate it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Oh, shout out, I'm wearing North Carolina A&T today. So, of course, it was founded in 1891, so I'm representing. I'm a Texas A&M Aggie. Well, I'm rocking the North Carolina A&T Aggie shirt today. All right, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hi!